to come up and talk about the Demo Congress show?
Works there. Well, I want to talk to you once more about the cattle farming show because it's going to happen before we have another meeting here. In fact, the Sunday of the cattle farmers is the picnic of the woodworkers, so got a conflict there. The one big thing we're doing different this year is we're not going to do the judging and the prices. We're just going to have a display of material. So, you know, anything that's up here could be shown, and hopefully we'll get as much or more than we do with the other show. The setup will be the same with the tables, 6 tables with the rope line in front, and the curtains in the back. We'll have the banner, the woodworker's banner up behind it, and then we're going to have our display of the varieties of wood, both common wood and the exotics that we've got. And then the joinery with dovetails, and mortise and tin and butt joints, and the whole thing. There are about 10 or 15 of those. But it won't be judged, and you can enter multiple items. You can bring as many as you want to. We just hopefully fill the 6 tables. If necessary, we'll get more tables. And then we're going to put each item will have a sign, and we'd like to have you then write up something about it so that it says that it's a block and it's oak and it's made by John Smith and so on and so on. Whatever you want to say about it. And the finish and procedures are any special woodworking. We're going to ask for the items to be delivered on the Saturday, September 6th. Most of the items are going to be delivered in that ag building on the 7th, and of course that's the picnic. So I'll be there, I guess Gene will be there with me, noon to 5 p.m. on Saturday the 6th. And then if it suits you, if it isn't a huge item, you could bring it to the picnic the following day, and we just transfer it over to our trunk, and we have it for you. So that'd be another way, or call us, drop it off at our home, or whatever. But we'd like to have a lot of items. And then the items to be picked up on that Sunday, the last day of the cattle show. Cattle show closes at 6 o'clock, and you can come in after 6 to 8 p.m. And anybody that can't make it, of course, we'll take care of the item and get it back to you. Now, anybody that does want to enter a wood item that is going to be judged and prices, there will be the old Cattle Congress Woodcraft Show class that's over on the other side of the building. So you can take it there on Sunday, or you can give it to us on Saturday or whatever, and we'll enter it for you. But there is that, they've had that for, I don't know, 50 years. It was that one woodcraft entry, I think it's Department 8, Division 12. And I went there and there was only 2 or 3 items. And I thought, my gosh, woodworkers could show more items than that of all the things that we make. So we hope that many of you will participate, that many of you will bring items. We'd like to have a lot of things to show. We think it would be good for the Woodworkers Club. Maybe get some interest in more younger people, more members. And we'd just like to have a lot of items there of different kinds to show a type of thing, you know. All of these things would be great. Different kinds of woodcraft items. Any questions? Hope that you make something available. Oh, yeah, we'll be talking about. We're going to talk about toys. The Salvation Army Christmas toys is the same thing as we've done every year. We hope that you'll make something. I've made some trade sets, and I don't know if I'll do any more yet. But in November, we'll turn over to the Salvation Army like usual. Maybe it'll be here. And,
Dan. Say Dan.
I
In the newsletter, we listed a bunch of patterns.
That's what I was going to say. We'll have patterns.
Yeah, I do that too.
I would add, Reed, also we'll be getting out here, maybe even next month here. Well, yes. We have several templates and patterns that I have in storage that I could bring to show for display for you to look through to consider making something like that too. And maybe we'll try and get a picture too, so you can see a representative picture, see what they look like. But we have lots of templates for patterns for making these projects. So we'll bring those.
I've got patterns for doll beds, doll cradles, and rocking horses. We've got several of those.
Okay. Well, I don't think I want to use this dangling over a blade here, so I just, in retrospect, I'm not going to use this. In fact, I'll take this off. Not that I'm going to lean that far either, but I guess I'll hang on to this. So, speak up and I'll try to, or if you can't hear me, but I'll try and speak loud enough here too. Earlier this year, I was asked to about presenting this a program here, and this kind of always intrigued me here. And last spring, I had brought a mailbox, newspaper box holder that I had made. We were needing one, and it featured raised panels, but I think at the time they were using router bits to make the raised panels, and I didn't have a router bit for the different profiles that I needed. And it was fortuitous in that a couple months before that, the shop notes had happened to feature a jig or device to make raised panels using the table saw. And I was rather intrigued by that, so I set about investigating that and decided to make it out of that. And it was a pretty simple project, actually. I guess I should get rid of this stuff here first. I know I brought this to show and tell, but anyway, I guess by way of review maybe, or for those that didn't see it, it took basically a piece of plywood about 40 by 40, not much at all. It's some I had, or I think I got from Pat, and it was already pre-finished. So that was great because it slides very well, so it's finished. So there's no drag and resistance on it. And so I used the pattern then for that, and had a couple modifications I'll talk to you about. But what I'll do is I'll just send, this is basically the article, and I'm going to send these around. You can just send them down and look at it, and just pass that down. Becky? Ardell? And Steve. There you go. I don't have so much clutter up here. Originally, in fact, it didn't cost a thing. Limiting factor, this was designed with the pattern here in mind. The limiting factor here is your raised panels could only be a certain width, and so I had it written down here. So from bolt to bolt, basically you had to stay in the confines of this this length here, which was 21 5/8, and by the time you add your rail and stile, you could basically have a 24-inch wide unit here. And the other drawback, as long as I'm going to talk the negative part, I guess, if you will, I suppose they might have used the Baltic birch. I had this plywood, and the problem is if you've got a narrow one that doesn't capture this full length, it's going to tend to bow this board. So you could either do double the thickness of the plywood to make sure that it captures and properly secures your stock, or create a band of steel or something across there. So that would be one other limiting factor with it. I had the other thing too, obviously, when you're making this, is make sure you've got everything 90 degrees, or it'll telescope that into your work. And so that's the other thing with that. Also, if you have a narrow piece of wood that doesn't capture the full, need to open that up here. Then, if the board needs to be absolutely flat too, or if it's gonna bow, it'll spring out that way. So you need to had it enough. It'll set pretty low down there, so it doesn't go the full length to clamp it. So if it's too narrow of a piece here, when you clamp it, it may tend to pivot that way. So what I did in that case, if it was too narrow, I just wanted to add insurance here. I just put this angle iron here so that when it clamps it in here, it doesn't, it stays flat and won't tend to do that on you here, actually. So that was the thought behind adding this on later on. So then also, you want to make sure that this registers flat to the table here. And let's see, I've got one of these here. Work here. When you clamp it in there, make sure it's absolutely flat there. So it'll be square here, or run parallel, I should say. Let's see, what else here? Don't need that again. We have, when I first did these samples here, I used the 6-inch dado blade, which probably doesn't work as well. They suggested an 8-inch, but I didn't have one at the time. So you can't raise it quite as high. So that's also going to change the dynamics of the sweep here. And so it'll be a little shorter, obviously. I was able to get the 8-inch here, and so I can make a larger, longer sweep with it here. I guess, and I haven't done it with the 8-inch one here, but I didn't want to go all the way up. It's a little more intimidating. And then it also had the polycarbonate shield here, which I didn't get put on here, but I'm comfortable enough with this properly secured that it's not going to grab. So, and when you're nibbling off very small amounts at a time, it really works very fine. So anyway, back to the 6-inch ones that I have here. I'll send these around here. Part of there's two things to consider here. The main thing is your dado. Typically it's 1/4 of an inch dado on a 3/4 inch stock. That way it's centered. So that's where you will need to register this exit edge here. I'm going to go over here and we'll just set that up here. So basically set your blade up to the height that you want it to be, and then zero in with, this is a 1/4 inch here, to represent the 1/4 inch dado. So where the tooth exits the table saw, the surface of the table saw, is where that 1/4 inch needs to be. And then just clamp it down in your expansion slot here. And you may have to play with it a little bit here. And I have extra pieces if you want a 5/16 inch dado, and you probably would not, but I'll talk about that in a little bit, or a 3/8 for an extra wide one if you want to have a rabbit on the back side of it. I can show you that here in a little bit. Okay, so then I've got that registered on the front edge. And then, according to the article here, on the back side of the blade then, they give you roughly 3 pictures here for the type of sweep or the profile that you can get with this here. I didn't do that. I was more just experimenting. Except I would say if you want it very narrow like that, in doing that way and less of an angle here, then what you're going to get is a real steep profile. I don't think that's particularly aesthetic, but that's what you would get with that one here. Whereas if you have a wider one here, you're going to get more of a more gentle sweep to this here, like that. It's hard to see. But that's what determines the type of sweep, and also the height is also how long you want that to be. It's critical for your dado for this front edge exit here, and you can just experiment on the back side what kind of a sweep here. So, so the other thing I wanted to say too, I'll just go ahead and talk about these pieces I explored here. The other thing too is when you've got it set up the way you want it here, raise the blade incrementally, you know, 1/4 of an inch if you want here. You'll kind of get a feel for that depending on how sharp your blade is, and it's going to let you know how fast you're going to be able to push that through there. Don't force it, of course. I know, when you get towards the end where you just about want it to be here, creep up on it. I mean, turn the thing only about a 1/4 of a turn on the dial here, ever so slightly, because it will, you know, amplify, or you'll be able to see that line there, and you'll be able to zero into it because you'll have a field of sight here where this becomes 45 and it meets at the corner here on that. So that's one thing, and I'm going to pass these around, and you'll see that where I showed that I didn't finish zeroing it in. It's real critical to very incrementally raise it very, very small amount, minute amount as you get close to the edge. And then let's see here. With a 3/8 inch tenon, if I decide to use a 3/8 inch tenon, you think, well, that's not very practical for a 3/4 stock where you use a 1/4 of an inch groove in there. But if you do that, that will that'll open up the possibilities of creating a rabbit that allow you to put a rabbit on the backside of a kerf thickness perhaps, and then you can move your fence over, not this obviously, but your table saw, and cut a kerf then, and you can bring it back to a 1/4 inch, and this will then set back into the it'll set on the back side here and create a shadow line for you. So and make sure when you set the height of the rabbit here that it's going to clear the depth here. So that's another possibility with that one here. I haven't done that except to play with it here, but it's an option here. Or you can use 5/16 and just make a 1/16 of an inch, for example. So you don't have to have it so dramatic of a rabbit here. Just enough to create a shadow line for interest here. Let's see here. Yep. Yeah, about that. Let's see, a small sweep, 1/4 of an inch. Yeah, less angle, and I guess I talked about that. Less of an angle when you run it through is going to give you a very dramatic raised panel look on that. I'll send those around. Oh, and if it's got a bow in it, or it's not clamped securely, it may end up not being parallel across the dado either. So something else to be cognizant of.
Dave,
Yeah.
do you cut on the end grain first?
That was my moving on here. Yes, okay. Definitely do the end grain first. And the reason for that is it's going to be unsupported on the back side as that blade exits, but you'll be able to clean it up when you run with the grain then. So always do both end grains first, and then work on both of the longitudinal or with the grain. So let me I don't think I need that anymore. I'm going to go ahead and pass these around. Let's see, 2, 4, 5. I guess we can do that. I'll go ahead and I guess, you know what, I didn't mark that. When you get to the end with it, send it up to behind you there, okay? And let's see here, do I want to do, maybe I should, well, that's not going to work. Okay, let me just send these here and you can just circulate them here. 3, 4, there you go. Did you get one here? Here, go ahead. I just got 5, so just, you know, freelance, I guess. Okay, well, I'll go ahead. Those are all with the 6-inch dado blade. I'm going to use the 8-inch, and I haven't done that one before, so we're going to explore together here. I've got some pieces here I've scrapped here. I've got it approximately in the middle. Sweep here. I don't think I want to go up quite that high here. I'm not comfortable with that. So I'm going to change that. And they said 2 inches on this one. With this particular device here, based on their schematics here, I couldn't make this opened up to 2 inches here on the back side to create this particular profile, but it's still enough to get an idea. So we'll go some 2 or 3 different profiles to see what it looks like here. I've got it opened up as far as my jig will allow me. I'm going to make sawdust, and if this is going to bother you, I'll be glad to scoot it back farther here. It's going to be noisy. My thing is a little noisy here, but it should work okay. I didn't bring my goggles, so. The other thing I didn't mention too is your device. Well, I did. It needs to be absolutely parallel. So I always check to make sure it's parallel, or it's vertical here, and it is. So, so I'm lucky in that sense here. Okay. Again, make sure it's flat on the table here and really snug here. I don't want it to twist or turn. And there's a bow here because this doesn't run the whole length, so I'm hoping that should, well, I know it will. I've done several with it, so it should work. Keep thinking of things here too. I like this device because it's very safe. Your hands are up out of the way from it. It really glides, and so that's really a comfort feature for sure. I hadn't tested it here. I put it in here. 4-inch ones. I'm going to back that off here. It's getting hung up on this feed here. I think I know how to. Bear with me here. We'll get this. Well, maybe. All right, I think we can get that to work here. Test it to see here if we're getting to the quarter inch here. Yeah, it's a quarter inch. Very little sanding actually is required with that. That's a nice gentle sweep with that.
Dave, I'm assuming you're going to do all four sides of that incrementally as you come up.
Well, I will I'm only going to do two sides. I'm not doing all of it.
Okay, but with a real panel, you're going to do all four sides. As you raise the blade, you're going to do a side, or all four sides?
When I did the mailbox, I took it out with each time and incrementally moved it around because I didn't have a way of creating a stop for the height on that. So that's the reason I did that. But yeah, that's a good question. it was asked rather than do each one and finish it and move on to the next. I didn't have a way of stopping, so I knew where it was exactly at. So that's the reason I incrementally raised it up. And I'm doing not real aggressive, but a sharp blade like this here, like they say in the article. You can actually, you know, hog off more material, if you will. It'll accept that. But when you get down towards the end, just really dial it back and use only small.
The angles, is your blade in an angle?
Nope. Good point. A good question. Nope. It stays 90 degrees. It's a skewed angle this way, kind of much like your cove.
What's the angle on the board?
I don't know what it is. I don't know what the angle is relative to the blade here.
Yeah. You just made it up?
Yes. I just know, the main thing, like they see in here, is make sure you've got, if you want your tenon to be 1/4 of an inch, make sure you've set that with 1/4 of an inch. Where the blade exits the top of the table and it meets this wall here. That's where you want to set that at the maximum height that you want it to be. And you're just going to have to experiment with that. So that one's done here. Then I'll do the other side. I'm not going to do all the way around. And here, this is going to be kind of short here. It doesn't capture all of it, but I want to make sure then that I've got it properly secured and this is in place so it stays as close to parallel as possible.
The board on top of that to hold it down.
Well, yeah, I can do that. The problem is I think this one's wider here. And I'm just afraid that that will not allow it to seat here. So I'll try that. Maybe I'll try one of these here instead. These are the same thickness here, so this will work better actually. Make sure that is really, jiggle it, try to jiggle it. You want that secured here. And make sure it's flat. Push down against that table. So we'll start over and do the, and like, I'll be a little more aggressive. You can do that with a sharp blade. I was just being very conservative here when I did the others. You may or may not be able to see it here, but like I was a site of a reference here, as you dial in closer to this corner here, you're going to have a create a 45 degree here, so you'll know that you really need to not take as aggressive cuts with it here, so that's what I'm approaching here. Okay, we're there with that one. I'm as close as I can get it here. I'll pass that around here. And that was with my 1/4 inch, set that 1/4 inch. Just swing that around. And it went slow here. It's going to take a little sanding, but not very much here. We'll do another and we'll change this angle a little bit. I'm going to keep the 1/4 inch tenon here, thickness here. Okay. And again, you'll do the ends first, flip them over, always do both ends first. And I'll change the angle here now then, to give you an idea of what the... Okay, let's see. I'm just estimating. I guess it's whatever, I don't know what I don't remember what that was. That's 1.5 inches I had the blade height set. So I'll keep that at 1.5. And we'll just change the angle here. Okay. Well, I don't need that right now.
Is that what gives your
The sweep? The what? The angle, as long as you establish what you want for the tenon to be, 1/4 inch, that's your very first mark. You set that here. And then once you've done that, then you can loosen this and swing this to whatever angle you want. But it will change a little bit. You'll have to go back and tweak it. But usually you can do that with 2 moves then, or this one, and then back and tweak it.
Yeah, but we don't keep it straight. When they kind of come back at it.
No, it stays parallel here. So it does not. Actually, when you come back, the blade cleans it up and it cleans off the kerf mark. Okay. So we're going to change that, and I've got this to the maximum angle I can make, so we're going to come back in this way, and so it'll create a deeper cut here, more of a pronounced raised panel here.
Dave, you need to use the dado set in order to get that code?
Yes, they recommended a dado set, yeah. It just allows you to hog off more material, give you a clean cut. And boy, it really does. It's just, it's nice. Okay, so I'll come in 1/4 inch or maybe a 1/2 inch. I'll come in a 1/2 inch here. I'll come in a 1/2 inch here. And try and keep that. Bring that up 1.5 inches, didn't I? Yeah, decide if you wanted to have a 1.5 inch height on that sweep, and then once you've decided that, then you go back and you put your decide to establish your 1/4-inch tenon here. As the tooth exits the top of the staple saw here. Kind of fussy. There it is. Okay. Doesn't take much to grab that. It really works great here. There we go. I think I did that there. Okay.
Take your shit.
Thank you. I would see that eventually. Probably may not even notice it that much here. Always make sure it's parallel again, or vertical, which it is here. Push that down, and that's right down on the top there. Okay, we're good to go. I got in a hurry. Okay. Huh?
Do the second
I don't need to do the second one? You don't? Okay.
time.
All right. Okay. Well, anyway, this one's a little bit closer. It looks very similar. It's hard to tell until you see them side by side. I'll go with a little more aggressive. Is it?
Why can't you do it in one pass?
You probably can. I'm afraid it might burn it, but I just think it's. I don't trust the jig. I think I wouldn't be comfortable doing it in one pass. Anyway, do we want to continue on or what?
Well, I don't want to stand up here.
No, that's okay.
Just to move along, what Gene brought up one other point too, is that you're going contrary to the salt blade, and they're easily harm on bearings.
Well, that's true.
The blade is made a certain cut of direction. You're going contrary to it. So,
You'll be stressing the bearings, yeah. Let me see if I have anything else here I want to touch on. The blade will let you know if you're going too fast here. And basically, as I swing less of an angle here, you're going to have a more of a pronounced raised panel, and I don't think it looks very nice, quite frankly. As far as safety hazards, I mean, make sure it's clamped properly here, and you've got it supported back here if you've got a shorter piece, so it doesn't tend to pivot and cause it to swing out here if you clamp it too tight like that and grab the blade, and it's going to kick back at you. Let's see, or if you're make sure your material is not bowed. The other thing we didn't have time to, and I had them on those samples, was creating a 3/8 of an inch tenon. That allowed you, like I touched on it here, allows you to put a rabbet on the back side of it here so that it creates a shadow line on that. That's something else to explore. I kind of seen that, and that's kind of intrigues me too, but anyway, that's what I did with that, and it was fun. So, any questions? Any other questions? Good. I covered everything.